Good evening.
Thank you, Lawyer Niama. So I want to get your reaction to the creation of these special courts. How significant would it be in the creation in fighting corruption?
Well, so special courts are not new in Ghana. If you go to the main High Court building near the ministries in Accra, all the courts in that building are special courts because on the ground floor, you see only land courts. On the first floor, it's also made up of land courts. If you move a little bit higher, you get what is called the criminal courts. We also have the commercial courts, financial courts, etc. over there. All what it means is that those courts have been dedicated to handle cases in a particular bracket. And so, if the president, together with the chief justice and the attorney general, are saying that they want to set up specialized courts that will deal with audit infractions, I want to believe they are going to set up something in that fashion. And all what it will mean is that anytime any infraction is found in any audit report, that infraction will be referred to that particular court to be dealt with. Now, to answer your questions directly, what are the advantages? The advantages are that number one, you get a specialized knowledge in that field because the judges that will be posted to that particular court will probably have some special knowledge in audit or something that will help them to be able to rapidly uncover the cases and be able to deal with them. Number two, there's also what is called speedy of adjudication, which means that because it's a special court and it's handling only one type of cases, there's likely to be some faster rate of deciding cases in that particular court. And so there are some benefits in it. But one thing I can say is that if these special courts are set up and we don't power it with a commensurate human resource, it will only be special court on paper, but it will not be able to deliver any results. What am I talking about? Today, as we speak, we have less than 500 courts in this country. And even that less than 500 courts, we don't have enough judges for all the courts. There are some district courts and circuit courts that when you go, the judge, let's say the judge in, I'm just using this as an example. I didn't want to mention a specific court, but for example, you can have a situation where a judge in, let's say, Abeka District Court is the same judge who sits in, let's say, Achimota District Court. So this judge will go to Abeka District Court Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then he will close Abeka District Court on Thursday and Friday, so that on Thursday and Friday, he or she will have the time to go and sit in Achimota District Court to decide cases. If we set up a special court and we are not ready to employ a special judge to sit permanently in that special court, we are not going to solve any problem. So whilst I recommend or I commend the president together with the attorney general and the chief justice for even thinking about setting up special courts, I will also pray further to them that when they set up these special courts, they should recruit competent judges and staff to permanently work in these special courts so that we can see some results from them.
The human resources, do we have the necessary provisions in terms of constitution-wise to ensure that these special courts will work independently? We already have special courts, like you've explained, but then to deal with corruption issues, do we have the constitutional reforms to ensure they are independent?
Well, under our constitution, the courts are independent. And so it is presumed that the courts work independent of any other consideration. And I can tell you as a practicing lawyer that a lot of the time, I can say up to about 95% of the time, the courts are always independent. The only times that sometimes we perceive that the independence of the court may not necessarily be there is when certain cases of certain political polarization goes to court, which the media is interested. And normally we see some rulings and sometimes we tend to ask ourselves whether those rulings are actually law or there are other considerations. But I can tell you for a fact that our judges do so well and a lot of the time they think independently and act independently. So I want to believe that the legal framework is already there. Now, the other side has to do with the other challenges that the judiciary itself faces. And I've mentioned some of them, which is that there's human resource constraints. I am personally advocating that we should abolish the system where the Chief Justice is required to submit his or her budget to the Finance Ministry for approval before it is sent to Parliament for approval. I am thinking that government of Ghana should decide on a percentage. If, for example, we decide that 2% of our annual general revenue should go to the judiciary, any Chief Justice who comes knows that this is the amount of money I'm going to get for the court. So he or she will decide whether I want to employ 20 judges or I want to employ only 5 judges. Because currently, before the Chief Justice can decide to employ more judges, the Chief Justice needs to go and get financial clearance from the Finance Ministry. And I don't think that is enough independence. I think that if the Constitution says that the judiciary should be independent, we should also give them financial independence. They should not be sending their budget to anybody for approval. We should just decide that, let's say, 5% of our annual GDP should go to the judiciary. Whatever the Chief Justice decides to do with that money, it is up to him to ensure that there's independence. He can decide that, okay, we have 500 courts, maybe we need about 100 more to be able to handle all the cases. Chief Justice can decide that, okay, looking at the money that I'm going to get this year, I can set aside money to build 10 more courts. Then it doesn't look like a president will have to come before the president will decide whether I'll build more courts for the court, for the Chief Justice or not. No, that does not show that there's real independence for the judiciary. So even though I believe the judiciary is already independent, I will push further for financial independence to allow them to be able to do their work very well. Number 2, we can also decide that when cases from these audit irregularities go to the court, and the courts are able to jail the people and even retrieve the money from them, the court should be allowed to retain a percentage of that money. For example, we can decide that if you go and steal 100 million from Ghana and the court is able to retrieve that money from you, the court should take about 10%. It will encourage the judges to do justice and ensure that they are helping us to retrieve our money, so that the court will also get their share to be able to run the administration without running into financial crisis. So there's a more that needs to be done, even though we're already on the right path.
Mahama, we appreciate your time this evening with us. We just spoke to private legal practitioner Nneɛma, and he's been sharing his thoughts on plans for the government